Hello. For anyone who might be wondering, this is a different video than what I usually do here, and here's why. My tradition is when there's a Friday the 13th that I do usually a JMC review of a Friday the 13th movie in the chronological order in which they came out. However, the Friday the 13th this year, the first one, falls on the weekend that I was planning to put out my first JMC review of the year. And my tradition is that the first review is always a Charles Bronson movie. So for the sake of keeping up the first review tradition, I decided not to review a Friday the 13th. However, I wanted to do something, so I thought, why not do a video where we get Guy's thoughts on the first Friday the 13th, because Guy's established to me that he's not a fan of slasher movies, and I thought, what could be funnier than hearing the thoughts of an old geezer who just doesn't get it? Or maybe he does get it now. We'll see. Guy?
No.
What did you think of the original Friday the 13th from 1980?
Well, like we said earlier, it wasn't a no-budget film, but it wasn't a big film. I mean, it didn't have a big budget.
About $500,000, I think.
Okay, and because it was kind of like one of the first in the genre, it wasn't as gory as they get now, and soon got after this. It was just oversimplified in a lot of ways. It did give us kind of a surprise ending, a double surprise ending at the end, which was a nice touch. That was a nice touch. That was good writing, I guess, to come up with that. But there were problems with it.
Oh, believe me.
Like you pointed out that a lot of the background and the intro music was kind of low end. Some of the actual acting was fairly flat, and even the young woman there that was kind of like the survivor at the end, and therefore like one of the main characters, she wasn't as scared as she should have shown. She was scared. She was not very good at that. She was good at some close-ups, some face things, like sorts of things where you want to reflect what might be going on in her mind. She did those very well, but as far as being afraid, she wasn't nearly as afraid as she should have been.
Or she just maybe wasn't that good at conveying it.
Yes. There were some, some what I would, if they're technical problems, I don't know. Like at the very end, the police car drove up and it had its lights flashing. Why? Did they know that there was a problem? How would they know? Maybe if they were coming out to check, that would make sense, because yeah, I saw such and such. Maybe we should go out and see him, the guy that got called off and had to go to the other emergency that was bringing the owner back. It shouldn't have had the lights flashing. It just seemed wrong to me. Also, when we found out who the killer is, Jason's mom, Betsy Palmer, I think, is who played that.
Well, I'm Mrs. Voorhees, an old friend of the Christies.
They could have done, and I don't think it would have been very expensive to do more with the effect of her speaking as Jason to her and speaking as her answering Jason.
Kill her, Mommy. Kill her. Don't let her get away, Mommy. Don't let her live.
I won't, Jason. I won't.
that was just a little lame. And I would think the director could have done something a little better with that.
It was a bit rushed, the whole explanation for why she's the killer.
Yeah, but not only rushed, but the actual, in Betsy Palmer is a fine, okay actress, and she can do some stuff. I'd never seen her do anything threatening before, but she wasn't bad at it. She wasn't bad at it.
She said she only took this role because she needed to buy a new car. Like she was desperate for cash. And she said at a convention that when she read the script, she said, "This is the biggest piece of shit I've ever read."
And there you are. And nonetheless, I think that she, gave it a go. And like I said, she was better in some aspects than others. But when you look at it, the killer is the one that hoisted, was it Bill, up on the door, hung him up there, and then shot arrows at him. She's not that big to do that. The other guy that was above, dripping down on, or was above the couple up there, she wouldn't have been the killer that did those things. She didn't have the heft to do that. So I mean, there were a few things like that.
Oh.
But let's go. There was suspense in the movie. What's going to happen next? For God's sake, don't go out there. What are you thinking about? There's nobody around you. It's on and on and on. You see the first 2 or 3 and all that sort of thing happening. But at some point, geez, smarten up, people.
Yeah, the kids in this film, especially the survivor, were pretty fucking stupid.
Dumb teenagers, and so yeah. But as an original, one of the original slasher movies, to kind of get the genre going, where they just get picked off one at a time. There is, you got some blood and stuff like that, and probably the most inventive thing was the arrow coming through the back and up, and we lost Kevin Bacon. Drops.
What did you think of Kevin Bacon in his second film role?
It was fine. He looked so young.
Yep.
So very young.
Younger than Footloose?
Oh, much younger than Footloose. And I would have liked to, if I'd have known what I was looking at, I would have liked to had a better look at the arm coming around and holding him to see if that could have been Betsy Palmer's hand. But, you can't go back and look.
And I guess this may have been a bad filmmaking choice, but in their attempt to hide that the killer was going to end up being female, all the shots of the hand you see throughout the film were done with a male double.
Ah, okay. But
so maybe that's why it doesn't match up.
Well, I didn't say it didn't match up, but when we got to the end and we saw, oh, it's her, and you didn't see her on screen until the last few minutes. Yeah. So there were some problems with it, but I can see they getting picked off one at a time. The suspense was there, and the gore was kind of new for first for mainstream movies.
Done by the great Tom Savini.
On the other hand, the slasher movies got more slasher, more gory. Although the decapitation of the head, that was kind of like, okay, one big step for horror movies. Off you go. It's almost like a Monty Python movie. Your arm's off.
Well, the arms were actually surprisingly able to have motion, despite no head.
Well, you know, you can say, death row, neurotic stimulus or something like that. But
what did you think of the second twist in the lake at the end?
that was really thoughtful, I thought. All right. Because now we don't know, and I think they could have played the cops not calling out to her, but just you can see the cops driving up, and then Jason takes her. So did the cops really see anything at all? You know, the way it's left, it's pretty certain that if the cops were calling to her like this, you could see her, that they would have seen her go over in what took her over. That was startling.
It's all right now, Alice. It's all over. Everything's over.
But to leave it wide open that Jason is, in the lake, or, the spirit of Jason, or the zombie of Jason, or whatever it's supposed to be, is out there, they could have just tweaked that a little bit better. Because at the end, it looks like was the question for the audience was like, is this all in her head?
Yeah.
Or is Jason still there?
Like, we know from the sequels, yeah, he's real. Yeah, but I said this in my review of one of the movies. Go back to 1980 before there were ever any sequels, and this probably must have been one of the most confusing endings for so many people. Like, was it all a dream? Is any of it real? What's happening and why?
Well, we knew it wasn't all a dream because we had the cops standing there telling her, yeah, they're all dead. And your parents are coming. What about the boy? Didn't see any boy. And they could have left that a little bit better if the cop wasn't down on the lake. If you'd have seen the car rolling in and no waving contact back and forth.
Maybe that was all a dream. It's hard to say.
Hard to say.
Like I said, confusing.
Yes. Nonetheless, not so confusing they weren't going to make a sequel, or they didn't end up making, well,
here's the
many money-making sequels.
Yeah. Here's a fun fact. It was actually Tom Savini's idea for Jason to appear at the end. He just suggested it, thinking it would be a nice jump scare ending.
It was startling.
And that little suggestion that they just thought would make a fun scare triggered
a franchise.
Yeah.
We got a franchise, baby.
Triggered 11 sequels if you count Freddy versus Jason. And Tom Savini has later said, I wish I had never made that suggestion.
I killed Kevin Bacon. Betsy Palmer was in a movie she hated. That could have been the end of it.
And I've made it clear, I loved the original Friday the 13th the first time I saw it. But it's one of those movies that after you see it multiple times, it kind of loses its magic. And I think the gore scenes are extremely good. There are a few well-done suspenseful bits, but for the most part, by the 10th or 15th viewing over the years, I mostly find the film kind of boring at times. The sequels, I love a lot. I'm not sure he would, but... So... Are you glad you saw it?
I wouldn't go that far. But it's been fun making this little discussion here.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give it?
It's hard to say, It isn't the worst thing I've ever sat through, because you've had me sit through a few. But I couldn't recommend it to anybody unless you want to see what did what did Kevin Bacon look like when he was really young.
Well, horror fans will like it. So, thanks for joining me for this and doing this little Gee-centric video. For those who don't know, I call him Gee. Thanks for doing this, and who knows, I might find other grisly things to show you in the future.
Well, maybe I'll think better of it.
Well,
It's been fun.
have a happy Friday the 13th. Later.